Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast, focused on providing valuable information for anyone looking to undertake a new build or extension project. We'll share our tips, tricks and stories from a building designer's perspective.
Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast. I'm your host, Amelia, and once again, we're joined by Frank Geskus.
Afternoon, Amelia.
Afternoon. What are we talking about today?
I thought we'd talk about inner city housing.
That's a good one.
So we're in Tasmania. We're not like the big cities, in Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, all the big guys. Even Hobart's not huge. But even in Launceston, we've got a pretty big CBD, and I thought we'd talk about how you convert some of the, inner city buildings, whether they're old commercial buildings or old residential buildings or townhouses, all sorts of stuff. Every city's got this type of construction somewhere, somehow. And people love them because location.
Oh, everyone wants to be able to walk to their local coffee shop.
I was about to say.
I'm talking about coffee shops.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could walk to work?
Exactly.
My first house was in East Launceston, and I got rid of a car and I walked everywhere.
That's great.
It was about nearly 15, 20-minute walk. It was great. Loved it.
My first year of living in Brisbane was 12 months without a car, so I used to walk to work.
Yep, and it wasn't that onerous, was it?
Except for when it was 42 degrees.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. Brisbane, in the middle of summer.
That was awful.
Oh, man, that's special, isn't it?
Oh, you go to work, rock up in a wet shirt. It wasn't very nice.
That's when they had showers at work.
Yeah, that wasn't fun. But, yeah, the concept, here in Tassie, it's obviously a little bit cooler. We don't have the...
So you work up the heat,
Yeah.
10 minutes into your walk, you're going to be warm.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And to be fair, it's a nice place to go for a walk. It's a very interesting city and surrounds. So
yeah, definitely.
So we could talk about new builds with a vacant piece of land, but tell you what, that's a rare thing to find in the city.
Oh, look, these days it's rare as hen's teeth.
Totally. Maybe we talk about, renovating some of the old townhouses or even first story spaces above shops and things. Like in Launceston, there's so much upper story space. It's amazing, and there's been some wonderful developments in town. And I believe the same in Hobart and even in the, I don't know about Devonport and Burnie. But yeah, and I'm sure it's all everywhere around Australia. So I think we'd just talk about what are the things you've got to consider.
Yeah, in our previous episode, we talked about transportable and prefabricated type scenarios.
Yep.
So I guess inner city could kind of go down that track if it was a new build.
I have seen that where it's just a nightmare getting trades, services, concrete trucks, you're blocking the road. It's a horror show. So you actually design it so the parts of the building are modular. So you still got the footing issues, that's fine, you'll get over that, but then you bring modules in for the house and construct it that way, and it doesn't mess up, the street with tradie vehicles everywhere. It's like when you're building at the end of a cul-de-sac, it's just an absolute traffic tradie nightmare.
Oh,
and it's not their fault. They've got to get to the job, but they've got to carry stuff in and out. They've got tons and tons of tools. So yeah, I know it drives everyone nuts, but it is what it is. They've got to get to the job. So let's talk about the existing buildings. I think one of the expectations is it's like downsizing.
It is.
So sometimes quite a few times you're getting a lot smaller. You're could be refurbishing some older stock of townhouses or upper story apartments, units above commercial. And generally they are not huge. Mind you, I remember doing investigation for a commercial building on the lower floor. We had to go to the upper floors to have a look, and I came in and it was these ginormous open spaces on 2 levels that it was abandoned in the 20s.
Oh, wow.
And everything was beautiful. It was still there, except the stairs were falling away and we had to get ladders and stuff. And it was amazing space, and it's still there now. It's never been developed. And the original bathroom, which was really dodgy out the back, which it always is in the old stuff.
Sounds totally legal.
Oh, no, it was back then.
Back then, exactly.
Yeah. But it's amazing what hidden gems you can find, and the beautiful floorboards, architraves, windows, just magnificent. To be able to convert that now into a comfortable living space is a real challenge.
In what way?
Well, think about the stairs. The stairs back then, they were like pygmies. So you go up, well, I'm over 6'2", and you crack your head going up because it's so narrow, and the opening the stairs go through is not real big. And even sometimes I've seen doorways that you got to duck into. So you might have one that's really old that's like that. But also the stairs themselves, the rise and run isn't comfortable compared to what is now. The handrails are very, very low. So you've got to consider, well, I can keep them, but am I going to be comfortable with that? I'll guarantee you the floor won't be level.
No.
But will look amazing.
I'm sure they will look amazing.
But then you've got that character, if you want to call it that. Then you got, most of them got old plaster on it. Could be lath with plaster over the top. So that's always challenging because you want to put electrical points in. You want to put nice joinery in your kitchen. The kitchens back in the old days in these old places were just one bench, a sink, and use the kitchen table.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, some dodgy oven or gas oven because Launceston had old town gas.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't realise
It
that.
was made out of coal.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't have natural gas. It was coal gas. It was quite a wild thing. But yeah, that was many, many years ago. And then you've got to try and convert it to a really comfortable space, and the size of our bedrooms we're used to having, the amount of storage we have. So that's where you've got to get really clever with your joinery, reuse the space. Most of these places didn't have space for a bathroom. You go to the outhouse out the back.
Yes.
We did that one with Drew in the office, and we found the original outhouse.
Really?
Yeah, and we got into a stair that was blocked off, and we were there with the heritage consultant from the Tasmanian Heritage Council. We went up the stairs. It was all original. The wallpaper, everything was original. It was peeling off. It was magnificent. And we go around, what's that room? Have a look. It was the old Thunderbox.
Oh,
It literally
really?
still had a timber seat in there. We had the porcelain bowl underneath, where they used to have to take that out into another container.
Oh,
and
yuck.
the night, what was it called? The night cart used to come around
yes.
and take your...
The bits.
Yes.
The waste.
I thought it was amazing. That was still there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very cool.
You didn't look in it, did you?
Yeah, the bowl wasn't there.
Oh, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. But all the timber, everything, yeah, it was very cool. So you got to deal with that. But then you got to look, is this heritage listed? Then
Yeah,
you got
that's
other
another
challenges.
thing. Yeah.
How do you get the access? Is your front door at a convenient spot? Can you even, like most in a city living, like Launceston's not a big city, so you're going to need a car. So where are you going to park your car? But, okay, you've overcome all that. Then you're into the build, You've made your decisions. Oh, how much are you going to upgrade? How much are you going to spend on this? Then are you going to get your thermal efficiency out of this?
Yeah, how do you achieve that in such an old building, if it is an old building?
Well, most of the time it's a bit how you going, age-wise, but also the condition, because we've dealt with a ton of them, and the conditions are quite poor. And in a lot of the cases, we just strip it down to its bare bones, start again.
I mean, you even see a lot of the commercial buildings, which I assume a lot of them have been heritage listed, and you just
Quite a
literally
few.
see the facade and the rest is gone.
Oh, that's quite common. Keep the facade, knock everything down at the back.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times.
Yeah, we haven't got a lot of those. It was like that jewellers in town. I was Stewart's. I was very privileged to go in when they shut it down, and got asked to have a look at what we could do with that, and all the original equipment of making jewellery from like, I don't know how many years ago, was still there.
Really?
It was gobsmacking. The stairs, it was crazy. It was super cool. But someone's bought it to do an investment, but then the heritage said, you can't touch this. And I totally get it. Like, there was still coals in the fire. It was like they walked away.
Wow.
And the tiny bedrooms that people used to sleep in, the staircases again were terrible for me to get up anyway. And this thing was 3 stories high.
Wow.
It was just beautiful and just left as is. Okay, back to trying to get that sustainability, or, your thermal performance. I shouldn't say sustainability. I love how we recycle buildings, and we've got to do it with sympathy.
Sympathy to the existing building.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you're not going to generally not change the facade. You might change the rear, do an extension, get extra space that you need. knock down the old outhouse if you can. In some cases, some of the townhouses down in Elizabeth Street, we've been able to extend at the rear, put car parking underneath, and make it, and then outdoor decks off the back, get nice aspect, and it works really well. In some cases, it's not quite as easy, but you can make it work. But there's going to be compromise all the way through. But I think if you strip it down to its bare bones, down to the frame, you can assess the whole structure. You can check the lower floor, the ground floor, because some of these timber floors are at the same height as the ground. So that means they may not get airflow, they may get moisture, and they just rot and collapse. Some of these could be anywhere between, 100 to 160 years old.
I mean, you look at some of these projects and there's something really romantic about taking on something like this.
Yeah, I've gone past that.
But in saying that, I have a feeling that so many people would go so much over budget with these types of projects.
That's why if you strip them down to the bone to find all these things, to be able to improve the thermal efficiency, seal it up better plumbing, you get to see all this, but you've got to allow for a whole new floor. Upper floors generally can work with, as long as you don't pull out too many walls down below. Generally, the lower floors, when they're at that ground level, we pull them out if they need to be pulled out, and we replace them with a concrete slab. But there's things you have to consider there as well. Then you've got a good base to work in. You can get all your plumbing right, because you're going to have to cut holes in the timber anyway to get all your plumbing through. Electrical, those types of things, NBN, that's always handy. Then when you've got the upper floor, then you get the frame right, the basics right of the house, and then you're building it back in. And you've got to think about how you're going to use the space well with the joinery. You can't necessarily muck around with the original windows on the facade other than replace them, normally double hung, replace the sashes with double glazing.
Yep.
And there's a local, I think in Meriden Fair, they'll rebuild your windows and put seals in there and stuff like that too, so they're not as leaky.
I have seen that done actually on an old farmhouse. Not far outside.
Yeah, they do a cracking job on their custom timber windows. So then on the back, it may not be as much as consideration or required consideration of keeping that heritage, and you can do something a bit more practical or modern. And a lot of people put decks, wet decks.
You're not a fan of those?
Well, not the lightweight ones over cement sheet. I prefer to do them out of concrete. There's less chance of failure. We've just seen too many failures with the lightweight wet decks, and good consideration for drainage. And then you've got good open doors that can open, just how we like to entertain outside as well. And you want to consider the sound, because you're in a city, it can be a little bit noisy.
Yeah. What can you do about that though? I mean, there's
double glazing.
Oh, yes, true.
You can do treatments to the walls as well.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, there are certain treatments you can do, but it depends on where. Are you on a main road? Are you on a secondary road? Are you near a nightclub? That's always fun with the bass rattling through your windows.
Yes.
I love that when you go to a hotel somewhere and there's a nightclub down the road or a pub.
And you can hear doof, 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 doof.
Yeah, totally. So it's good planning of the space, good use of the space. The kitchens have to be designed smarter, how you do your laundry, all those types of things. And most people probably know that. And it's good use of space. Really working with the customer closely, what they want to achieve out of that, but also understand there's limitations. If you're lucky enough to have parking.
Yeah, that's another really good point, because, I mean, even you look at Melbourne, Sydney, those sort of places, parking is a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But in Lonnie, we're pretty fortunate, because a lot of places, some of the sites are big enough, or they have laneways down the back and you can get parking in there.
Yeah.
So some are really, really good, or connected to public parking.
Yes.
So something to consider. Another thing I want to throw in, I forgot to mention before, and we talk about, trying to get the building more thermally efficient, but also we've got to consider ventilation. These old buildings, they were quite well ventilated. They didn't seal up very well, and they were cold as. We don't like that, so we need to seal it up. So we've got to consider our ventilation. Then how do we get the moist air out? I was reading an article of a gentleman, architect in New York, that's turning these townhouses into passive house.
Really?
And I was looking through this and I was just blown away at how they were doing that. And yeah, that's full credit to him. I thought it was really impressive work, but also the budgets are probably a lot higher there too. But even by providing high quality ventilation, like a heat recovery ventilation system, I reckon would go a long way to get the efficiency up on the building, but also getting good ventilation and reduced chance of condensation. Because you're dealing with an old building.
I feel like that's important not just for inner city. I feel like they're important for every house.
I've spoken about it before, 100%. But it's not considered because when you're dealing with an old building, you're dealing with bricks that are a lot more, they're different, the mortar, the bricks, the timber. Everything's different to how we build with newer types of construction. So ventilation is really, really important. And thankfully, we've got higher ceilings in these too, so you've got plenty of space to do it.
That's true.
So privacy is another big thing you've got to consider too, because you're in someone else's pocket, you're right up to next to someone. So acoustics between each one of these buildings too could be something to consider, because most of them are double, triple, quadruple brick, depending on the age. And the other effect of those, brick isn't always the best for sound. So then you may want to put in further acoustic treatment between the party walls. Also with your decks and outdoor space, privacy screens, because you want to have better privacy. I like to have flexibility with screens. You can move screens.
That's a good idea.
Around, but also to be able to control the sun. You want to get as much sun as possible into your decks and your living areas.
And good window coverings.
Good window coverings.
For privacy.
Yeah, totally. Or a good tint. That works in the right context. They'll work very well. Also, it's tough to get the sunlight directly into the house because sometimes you're a box and the orientation's going to, you may not get much sun in there except for about 3 hours every day. Mm-hmm. So you've got to grab it while you can. Yeah, we spoke about garages. If you can get those and internal access, that's absolute gold if you can do that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Utility space. We're looking at a townhouse in George Street. We've only got a front entry door onto the main street, big corridor, but we're allowing space in this hallway so they can hang bikes, scooters and things in the thoroughfare space to get to the stairs.
Oh, wow. That sounds very tight though.
No, we've made it wide enough so it makes good walkway to the heritage stairs because it is listed. Mm-hmm. So then the wall that we've put in, which is a firewall between the commercial property, they can actually hang equipment off there if they want to. There's enough width.
Yeah.
But this one doesn't have an outdoor space.
Okay.
We can't do it, and we can't touch the facade either. So we're trying to upgrade certain parts of the buildings. So that might mean the windows will open, like fully open, to be able to get breeze right through. Now, got to talk about cost and budget for these things, as we mentioned before.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. And
exactly.
It's even a bigger case on these inner city developments. Because really, I think you've always got to strip the thing down to its bones to make sure that the structure, the floor, the ceiling, everything is structurally sound. And then you rebuild back from there if you can. It'd be a much preferred way of doing it. And you've got to work with our lovely regulations.
Yes, you can't avoid them.
No, planning approval, heritage approval. The heritage guys in Tasmania, I've got to shout out to them. They're great to work with. I've found them very reasonable to work with in all the projects we've worked in the past. Then, your other, I call it also keyhole construction.
Oh, what's that?
Well, they actually don't have much space. I was talking about the tradies. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes they've only got one doorway to get in and out of and get all the supplies in.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
It is, and they can't even park close enough.
No.
So you've got to get trolleys and stuff and taking all their tools and stuff, and then at the end of the day, take all the tools home. So that's where you pay a lot of money for, because you've got a lot of wasted time of transporting stuff. I remember one job we did off Charles Street where it was an existing residence upstairs. We updated the whole thing, and the builder literally had like 20 metres from the back door of that to this fence, and this was all common area in this car park. Someone had to work all the deliveries and work with the council getting space, like taking over these parking spots. So like you're dropping off sheets of plaster, flooring, tiles, bats, electrical equipment, you name it. And they had to strategically do all the deliveries, and you had all these worker ants dragging all this stuff in and out of the building.
Oh my goodness.
And you couldn't leave it outside.
No.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. We went there to do a site measure, and some people broke in, and we found about 15 people sleeping in the building we're about to work on.
What?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I went there with the building surveyor and going, what the heck? Someone got in. They didn't damage the place, they just crashed. And we were there to go check stuff on the building and to go, you guys can't be in here.
Oh, wow. I reckon they probably would have known they weren't supposed to be in there.
Yeah, and it was locked. But anyway, it is what it is. So that got sorted. I don't know if there was any big deal or anything. But yeah, They was unfortunately looking for a place to sleep.
Yeah.
Which is, we've spoken about this before. It's a sad situation. And this, mind you, this was 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So from a budget point of view, it is this double handling and moving in equipment in and out, taking the rubbish away. And you can't leave stuff lying around outside.
No.
And inside has to be really efficient.
You really want someone that has done this before. A good builder that is just knows how to run a good tight ship and just a good production.
Oh, yeah, tight as, and, as I call it, keyhole construction. You haven't got much space there at all.
No.
Yeah. So I highly recommend doing it if that's where you want to live, but do it properly and, like you say, find the experienced people.
Yes.
And experienced builders, plumbers. We had problems with, plumbing can be one of the biggest nightmares.
Yeah, if you have to redo all the plumbing.
But you would anyway.
Yeah,
you
would anyway.
But
yeah, that's true.
You're dealing with really old connections coming to the site. It could be old iron pipes, and then you're replacing it, and then the sewer might be earthenware, or cast iron.
Yeah.
Sewer lines that come from top to bottom. So you've really got to consider replacing those while you can. And this, again, comes down to the budget, goes up. But it can be a really good project if you like the inner city living.
Well, I guess there's pros and cons to it. I mean, you get that lifestyle that's inner city and convenient, especially if it's close to your workplace, close to shops.
Exactly. And there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see, look, I'm very biased Launceston, born and bred, very proud Launcestonian. I would love to see the inner city of Launceston develop into this massive community that people live in there, because I think it's got so much potential, to really do something amazing. And then shut off a few more streets, if people want to go there.
Here's a question for you. Where do you see it in the next 10 to 20 years? What would you like to see Launceston look like?
What I'd like it to see is lots of inner city living, lots of cafes, shops, a lot more streets closed off, and with more parking around the outside. This is only my personal view. I'm not an urban planner or anything like this, but I just think it could be an amazing space for other festivals they could have in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Remember Festivali?
Yes.
Yes, we have that in the city park.
We do.
It's awesome fun.
It is.
It used to be in the streets.
Did it really?
Seriously.
I don't remember
it.
that.
I was about 21, 22. Let's go back a while. And it used to be in the streets. And it was so much fun.
Yeah, right.
It's just street parties. It was great. And I love it when we do street parties in Launceston. Targa Tasmania's done it a number of times. They had all the cars there. Mm-hmm. There's been other parties where they've blocked off streets. And I think that's awesome when they do that.
I think it encourages, people to use small business a lot more, I think, too, which is probably a really good thing.
But you want to have something that people want to go to. You're building the inner city community. Because at the moment, there's a lot of negativity about the inner part of Launceston. What's happening with homeless people, antisocial behaviour, a whole bunch of stuff. But I also believe it could be made into something amazing, connect into Seaport. All the universities are being built. We've got beautiful parks. We've got the gorge. So, yeah, so as you can tell, I love Launceston. So I'd love to see that in 10, 20 years' time. And we also get the major traffic through Wellington Street bypass the city.
Yeah, okay, so it's more of a walking thoroughfare.
Well, you just don't want the main thoroughfare where you got all the arterials going through Launceston. Mm-hmm. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
You want to have it where there's a place to live. People walk, live, educate, do business. It's just a nice place to be.
All right, well, let's start wrapping up. What are the take-home points for anyone that wants to start or either build or extend?
I already gave you those. Do it again?
Do it again.
Do it again? All right.
Just for anyone that wasn't listening.
Hopefully I haven't put it to sleep.
I mean, you did say, find someone really experienced. I think that's a really good, important point.
I think the very first thing, if you're interested in something like that, you found an old building, you need to get a designer or architect that's done this before, come with you, go through it, and do a lot of research, what you possibly can and can't do. Titles. The titles are very, very important to have those read and understood, because the amount of right-of-ways and weird stuff in these old ones, because some of them are so old, they're in Roods and Purchase and that's how they're measured. You need to make sure that is all correct too. Plus, then we can look at all the planning overlays, look at the planning intent for the city as well, so that could assist you. And how do you want to live your lifestyle? You live in this space. So I believe if you do that really early, you may not find the right building, but if you keep looking for it, it will turn up. And I suppose this can go for any city, anywhere. Research before you dive into something and understand what you can and can't do, what your limitations, how you want to function, depending on your stage of life too, because that's really important.
Oh, definitely.
So from there, your designer or architect can take you through that process. They would also know builders and trades and so many other, and even in structural engineers that specialise in this work, that could be able to assist in taking you through that whole process.
So really you need an experienced builder, an experienced architect or building designer, and a conveyancer as well. You want a good solicitor that can understand the titles.
Yeah, really good solicitor that understands it, because I've seen people get caught out with certain right-of-ways or just all sorts of covenants and weird stuff, really old stuff. There was an old block of land down at Margaret Street. It still had something on the easement to allow cattle to go onto a boat.
That doesn't sound applicable anymore.
But it's on the title.
Wow, that's, okay.
Or there's an easement there, but is there anything in there anymore?
That's true.
Yeah. So, or no build area, all sorts of stuff. That's why the titles are really important to be able to check and get specialist surveyors or solicitors to look at that, especially with hidden agreements.
All right, well, we might wrap it up there, folks. Thanks for listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.
Catch us later.
You're listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.